Good evening, witches, warlocks, sorcerers, adepts, friends, fans, family, and followers to Season 1, Episode 12 of Cuniculum Obscuritatis, the Obscure Tunnels or Tunnels of Obscurity. As always, I am your host, Frater Crow.
And I am your co-host, Natasha Michelle. Please make sure that you tune into us on all of the streaming platforms you can choose, and then you can go back and watch the episodes that you missed because we have almost a whole season now. You can find us live here on Facebook, on YouTube, and on many other areas.
And if you are listening out there and you want to interact with the show, feel free to leave a comment on whatever platform you're listening in from. It should come across to our dashboard. If it does, we will throw it up on the screen. We will read it off. We will answer your questions. We will interact with you. As always, you are very much a part of this show, folks. Please do not be shy. Jump in and talk with us. That's the whole point. If you are new to our show, this show is a ground up building exercise on spiritual practice. We do say diabolism, as far as devil worship, because that is the practice that we follow, but it really is for anyone with a slight tinge towards diabolus. So if you've missed any of our past episodes and you're new to us, go back and listen to them. We will teach you how to do a daily practice. We will teach you how to deal with grief. We will tell you who to steer clear of. We will tell you so much more. We do want to thank you for tuning in for the first time. If you are a return viewer, thank you so much for your continued patronage and support. Like I said, make sure to drop those comments. We will throw them up and have a good time. We already have some comments rolling in. I'm here, brother and sister. Welcome. We have Stacy saying devil horns to you as well. And thank you guys for tuning in. We have another fun-filled episode and our last regular episode of this. We have one more after tonight in 2 weeks, but that'll be a final season finale Q&A. We will talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We'll answer questions. Keep in mind, this season, as I've said before, is a building season. Season 1 is foundations. Season 2 will be in-depth practice or diving deeper into practice. So even though tonight's episode, Invocation and Evocation, is a topic that most of you want to hear and we will talk about, we're going to talk about the basics of it, the premise of it. What does it mean? How is it used? But for those that are like, well, let's conjure tonight, what is your method? We'll get into that next season. That is what next season is for. But we want to teach you the basics of all of these things because these are the foundational aspects to getting into season 2.
Absolutely. And you have to have a strong foundation, as we have been saying for all past 11 episodes that we have been talking to you guys on. I think we've said it literally in every episode. So can't understate the importance of it.
And especially for this topic tonight, which is invocation and evocation, because to get to this stage in your practice is the stage that we talked about that everyone wants to get to like day one. I've decided I want to get into the occult, into the esoteric. Now let's summon some demons or some angels or some spirits. And the thing is like it takes a hell of a lot of practice. It takes a hell of a lot of discipline. It takes a hell of a lot of daily cleansing and being balanced to be able to handle these powers. Because even if you do successfully pull off the conjuration of these spirits, if you are not mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally prepared to take on these adverse currents, it'll have adverse aspects and consequences in your life.
Agreed. And I think that it has been made as if it was something easy, as if it could be done in a second, from all of the social media posts that you might see. So tonight, I think it would be better if we talk about it on kind of a real level.
Absolutely. And I want to say hi to Bob. Thank you for tuning in, brother. I threw his comment up, but I didn't get a chance to read it off. It said, happy to make it. We are happy to have you. MDKH says, if someone is diagnosed with bipolar 1, what is your suggestions? Well, we're just going to talk about the episode tonight, brother, and you can see if it relates to you. I don't, my topics of this evening, our topics of this evening aren't specifically geared towards anyone who is diagnosed bipolar or with anything specific, but you can see how it fits for you, what resonates, what does not. And we always say, take what resonates, discard the rest. So before we jump into it, let's read off or recite off the prayer of the Coterie of Samil. In the name of Samael, Cain, and Lilith, we call out to you, O Lord Nakashal, our Savior and Father. Let us continue to be unbendable, unbreakable pillars of the eternal infernal black flame. Soldiers and emissaries of the black light of divinity, you who is the true God existing in the void place of chaos before the creation of the cosmos, which gave form to force, bringing only suffering and death. Blanketed with the illusion of what the Claiborne call living, encased in their fragile flesh, falling victim to their own debased hungers, the cattle stand in their own prisons singing songs of freedom. The blind bastard sons and daughters bow to their blind bastard God. Let us never be mistaken for their ilk. Let us serve you diligently and with honor. Let our knees not falter and allow our minds to remain sharp and clear for the battles and wars that we shall wage in your name. Life after life we march to your drum until we have won and all is returned back to silence. We are the beacons of hope, the lighthouses of knowledge. No matter the darkness, the wisdom will shine, for we are the messengers and we are the crows. Our cause will be heard till the ending of time. We are the sons and daughters of darkness. The Natasha is with us, and we shall never fear.
And following that, as always, we will do the mission statement for the Coterie of Samil. Number 1, to honor, praise, and uphold the work of our other god, the Natasha. Number 2, to honor, praise, and know the Quphotic Elohim, working alongside them to gain gnosis and shape the currents of our own lives. Number 3, the intense and continuous study and practice of Dabblism, necromancy, and left-hand path mysticism. Number 4, work completed both in and out of the temple, individually and as a cult, towards a return to Ein and spiritual immortality in nothingness. Number 5, to reside in a physical manifestation, that while it may be incarnated in a prison, it is a prison crafted to our standards and our desires. Number 6, to uphold the authority and integrity of one's own moral code while remaining a wolf in a world filled with sheep. Number 7, to openly shine and fan our own black flames, giving the opportunity and inspiration for those so inclined to recognize and feed their own. Number 8, to burn as torches in the darkness so that those worthy may be guided by them, finding their inner strength and embodying what it means to rise to their own power. And number 9, not to obtain or draw in followers, but to encourage mysticism, free thought, dedication, breaking of chains, and questioning everything, including us.
Now, before we get tonight's episode started, as always, I usually bring you a beer of the night. And tonight we have New Trail Brewing Company. We have 24/7 Hazy Session Indian Pale Ale. We have the Broken Hills Hazy IPA. And lastly, we have Trail Marker West Coast IPA. Scrumptious. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the episode's topic this evening. And the thing you'll find about tonight's topic is that no one's going to agree probably on it solely, because the thing about invocation and evocation is not only do people argue online all the time about what they are, people then within the own category will argue. So then when it gets to invocation, they argue about what it is, what it isn't. I would like to give you our understanding of invocation, evocation, how we look at it within the Coterie of Samil, because once again, we are not saying that our ways or our knowledge, our understandings, and our lessons are for everyone. But they do work. They do have power and resonance behind them, and they do resonate with a lot of folks. So if it resonates with you, try it out, see how you feel about things. If they don't, that's fine. They don't have to. Now,
absolutely.
It's very simple. Invocation, evocation. Invocation, within you. Evocation, external to you. The I and the E give it away. In, external. Internal, external. Internal, external. Invocation, sometimes you'll hear it being the opposite. I do hear people that'll say invocation, which is very strange, but they'll say invocation is actually the spirit outside of you and evocation's within you. I don't know where that came from, and I'm not saying they're wrong. That's just different than we look at it and how most people look at it. But invocation is generally the calling of a spirit within you, and this can be done in several ways. Now, where you will hear a lot of people talk about invocation, and I've heard this heavily over the years, is they say that invocation can only be done with higher beings, angelic beings, Olympian gods, higher intelligences of higher spheres, because you're invoking them and pulling them down into you, and evoking, you're pulling up or pulling out of you. I don't agree with that, because depending upon where you're looking at it from, invocation and the bringing of something in you is able to be done of any type of spirit.
Mhm.
Now, there are different definitions. Some people would say that if you start to get into what we'll talk about later, which is possession, that is different than invocation. But invocation is generally the allowing of a being inside of you, but the work that you're doing is seen internally, often through meditation, through envision, through closing your eyes in a meditative state. They transmit ideas to you. They talk to you within your head. It's not imagination. It is just an easier form for them to talk with you, because evocation is them being outside of you. When it's invocation, it's in your world internally. You can close your eyes, focus, quiet the mind, and they're there. Evocation is the bringing to them onto the physical material plane and them being there on the external plane. Now, Natasha said earlier that we're going to break a lot of common lies and myths. Evocation doesn't mean necessarily that they are seen. People tend to have this thing in this new age demonolatry, fucking left hand path sensationalism that's hit in the last 15 years, that like I evoked a spirit, and they always talk about it like that when they evoke, that it just showed up in front of them like I am here. Like that doesn't happen. It very, very rarely. And sorry to burst your bubble out there, guys who think it does. But the truth is, if you like believe these other people saying it, how often have you experienced that? Most of you are going to say, well, I haven't. Well, yeah, stop believing everybody. And for the folks out there saying that it does happen every time, are you bullshitting folks to get, clout, or are you in psychosis? Because usually it's the two. And I'm not trying to be an asshole saying this. I am just telling you to bring a spirit to full visible manifestation in front of you is very rare. It does happen, but it is rare. So if you're saying it's happening constantly, every time you're in the temple, you are lying. And I don't care who it is that you are out there, you are lying. It doesn't happen each and every time. You don't bat 100 when it comes to this. Internally, you might go into meditation, but even then, it's rare that every time you're going to get exactly what you're set up for. Spirit doesn't work like that. It's like, I look at it like electricity. When you're working with these things, there's different reasons to work with it and different methods. Evocation is lightning striking the room. Invocation is your electric switch for your lights. You're able to kind of turn it on, let it work for you. And I want to get a little bit into that. I'm getting sidetracked. There was something, a different way I wanted to present it. Kind of skip that a little bit. But that's the general basis, is you were calling within or you were calling without. When you're calling without, often you are going to notice changes in the atmospheric pressure around you. You're going to notice different things around the room or the temple. And often, as I said, this is not accompanied by a visual sighting of the spirit. You might see something strange in the room, something move real quick.
Corner of your eye.
Yeah, you're not seeing out of the corner of your eye. You're not normally seeing a being just stand there. Where, like I said, if you're going invocation, closing your eyes, there's a chance you very well might, but not always. Before I get too sidetracked, because I started to jump into something else I want to bring up here in a little bit. Natasha, why don't you jump in a little bit?
Well, I was going to say, I know that I don't need to like rehash what you said, but I know for like people that have very strong clairvoyance, they might be able to have visuals a lot easier of the spirits. But I think that like Frater said, for the last like 15 years, 20 years or so, there's been such an uptick of, videos and people talking about this and everything, that they make it seem as if it's commonplace. And I think that that's really damaging, especially for people that are just starting out, because if you're watching these videos and you're thinking this is commonplace and this is like what happens every time, then you're going to get very discouraged when that is not what is happening for you every time. And I hate that. I hated, having to have people that were upset by that for clients and stuff. So I think that, but I do think that it should be stated that people with strong clairvoyance often may have a visual manifestation easier. People without strong clairvoyance or that don't necessarily have that, you're more than likely not going to get that. You might have a, I like to call it like a disturbance in the air. You can like just see almost smoky waves in the air, see it out of the corner of your eye. But you're more than likely going to see it in a lot of other different ways, which I think you're probably going to hit on. So I'm not going to touch that yet. Like smoke or objects moving or things like that. More so than just, you know, somebody who appears in front of you in a cloud of smoke. I've done many powerful rituals with spirits and had many amazing experiences, and almost all of that has been more internal than external. And the external things, while they are amazing because they are still happening outside of your normal like sphere, your normal everyday, it's never been that Lilith just dropped down out of a cloud in front of me, or Asmodeus appeared in a thing of fire. You know what I mean? And I think
Well,
that's what they try to push on people right now.
they do try to push that, and the problem is like the common misunderstanding is that to evoke a spirit, you will see them. That you
Right.
need to see them for it to be powerful. And here's the fucking raw truth, guys.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work, a lot of focus, a lot of pushing of your will and steadiness to bring that spirit to a physical manifestation. And
Yeah.
a lot of that is wasted energy because you don't need them to be physical. You can see, you can feel their presence, you can have them change aspects of your life without ever needing to bring them that far. So at the end of the day, you bringing them that far most of the time is really just for your own ego, because you need to see them for some reason, or you feel tougher if you see them, or ooh, look at that. Like it's an unneeded aspect. But the problem is you're conjuring, you're reciting these incantations over and over and over and over and over again, and switching it up and having to remember a lot. You can read from a book, but it's best if you remember. So to try to remember all these different incantations, to try to recite them over and over again, by the time it shows up, most of the time, you are fucking drained.
Yeah.
So where that is very possibly damaging to you is unless you already have a pretty strong relationship with the spirit, you just called in a being that you've maybe never worked with before in your life that might be very adversarial to you, and you've depleted 80% of your energy. So now you're standing tired, panting, just like, holy fuck, my ass is kicked right now. Oh, it's here. Okay, well, now it's here, but now you have this extremely powerful being standing in front of this person who's extremely weak and tired. It doesn't make sense. You're not operating at maximum capacity at this point, but now it's here. Yippee, yippee. So, like, I think that that is a huge misconception, that people think they need to see it, and they're doing themselves an injustice. If there is a reason to bring it that far, okay. Very rarely is there, other than ego stroking.
I agree. And I think that it is also important to note that the other thing is you can be so wrapped up in like, oh, I have to see it. I have to see it. I'm going to keep calling. I'm going to exhaust myself. That's my dog, not a spirit. I'm going to exhaust myself until I like have this visual representation. And meanwhile, 20 minutes ago into your 2-hour ritual, that spirit showed up and he's sitting like behind you, and he's given you all these little signs that you're not picking up on because you are so focused on wanting that visual representation, thinking that is where you have to wait for them to appear. So now not only are you tired, not only are you drained, but you're kind of being rude to your house guest who did show up and is sitting behind you. And that was something that I remember from, you know, that you told me years ago, was even if you don't think that anything happened, you act like it did because you don't want to take the chance of disrespecting a spirit that did show up, that did come for you when you called. And I've always like kept that very in the forefront of my brain when I'm practicing, because I as a practitioner, you will also be at different levels when you're doing rituals. So there might be one night that you are completely on your A game, and one night where you're not as sensitive to your surroundings. That's something to keep in mind too.
Well, and another thing I want to mention with that subject, and I agree with you, that's the ghost hunter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah.
You got people who are like over and over again using the most fancy of gadgets, but they're never actually seeing the spirit that's in the room with them because they're so focused on the gadgets and looking everywhere
Hmm.
where the spirit is. So you need to be more focused on that, folks, and not worried so much about can I see it? It should be can I feel it? Because I think the
Yeah.
feeling is going to be the first thing. Now, let's get into some misconceptions. Starting with evocation first rather than invocation. Evocation, you hear a lot of people. I've heard so many people over the years like evocation is harmful or rude to the spirits. I don't necessarily agree. It depends on the method in which you employ it. I think that a lot of people aren't educated enough to really understand the differences of a lot of these things because they look at it from the Lemegeton's Goetia, they look at it from old grimoire magic, and they look at it using, barbarous names and thwarting angels to constrict and control the spirit. And if you don't listen to me, then I will put your sigil within a black iron box and stick it over a fire and burn it, and you will suffer. And that is some employ. And yes, that is a very fucked up way of conjuring and controlling a spirit. But that doesn't mean every time you're evoking a spirit, it has to be that. You can call them without those safeguards. Doesn't mean you're being, unsafe necessarily, but you can call them without forcing. You don't have to make them your slave. You can call them and come to equal terms. I am calling you. I have respect for you, great spirit. I'm asking that you do this job for me. I have given this to you as a token of my appreciation and as of good faith. And once you've completed this right within this time frame in this manner, I shall pay you these things. And you have formed a contract of sorts. You are saying, here you go. Let's do business. Here's my terms. Do you accept? Let's get it done within this time frame in this manner, and this is what you get. If they don't do it, you don't give it. If they do it, you make sure you give it. And that is a difference between forcing someone to do it and asking if they wish to take on employment. But there's a lot of times people just box in and evoking a spirit and making it stand within a triangle and this and that is very rude to the spirit. You have to understand, and I'll go back to the analogy I used earlier with the lightning bolt. You are pulling something from another etheric and astral plane into this physical plane. It is an extreme amount of energy and force for it to come through. And if you don't give it a defined space to come into, when it hits the room, it's everywhere. That can be dangerous. And it's also hard to synthesize it down to where you need it to be. So the whole reason for the triangle of manifestation, or what they call the triangle of the art, is to give a delineated, defined space in which that spirit can be directed. It will know that you're giving it its space because part of the operation is outlining that is where it is to manifest itself. Plus, you are using your will, your imagination, but not imagination. Catch our older episodes in the sense of just making it up. Your imagination is Pandora's box. You leave the door unlocked, and they'll open it and pull from your mind to create what you see and experience. So with you giving them a defined, delineated space, you directing with your will and energy, and that energy coming into your room, it comes into a defined space. So now you have a 2-foot radius that being's energy is in. And that is a much more efficient way of communicating with the spirit than for folks that I see. Like, I call beings down into my temple all the time, and I don't use a triangle. That's fine. But one, it's harmful, possibly. Two, it's a lot harder to see them clearly and to get messages. Now let's talk about seeing them. We have a comment here. Let me find it. Oh, that's already up. Could you see them within the incense smoke? Well, so let's get into that. Yes and no. Crawley was very big on the proponent of trying to get spirits to manifest within the censer smoke. You can, but the problem with it is it's very fleeting. You're not going to see just an endless 5-minute phenomena of hands and faces come out and them talk to you and smoke. What often happens is it's a blip in time. Where you will catch it is on video or on photograph, often photograph more easily, where it's, if you take 50 photographs, you might catch one or two where there is something that is, pretty remarkable. Now, you have to be very discerning of that. I do that sometimes in my own rituals, not to show anybody because you guys out there haven't seen any of them, right? It's for my own research. Now, I am very discerning on it. I might get 15 photos that are very over a span of time that are very enthralling, but only accept 2 of them. Why? Is that saying that the other 13 are in fact no way? No, I'm sure some of those 13 were legit. Some of them might be the pareidolia or whatever of seeing faces. Sure, some of them are probably real and I'm just not accepting them. But I'm only accepting the ones without question that are real. I have pictures of full-blown faces. You can see the strands of hair hanging. You can see the collars on their shirts. You can see their lips, their nose, their teeth. You can see aspects. And in some cases, they look exactly like, and I'm talking in necromancy, look exactly like the spirits that you conjured and called. So that's unmistakable. But you have to be discerning in this. So it can happen. Now, the thing is, when I'm doing these rituals, I often don't see it in the smoke because smoke is moving so quickly that you can't see it. But you take that picture over and over and over again, then you happen to catch that one where a form came straight out of it and vanished. So it was, but Crawley was trying to get it to stay there, to be able to just come out and talk. It didn't work. But Poke Runyon, great ceremonial magician, he runs the Ordo Templi Astarte, not to be confused with Ordo Templi Orientis. He brought back and discovered long ago that when they showed the triangle of manifestation, they often show the circle in the middle of the triangle is green or black. And people just thought that this is the place you stick the sigil, which is accurate. But no, this is the place that you put the black scrying mirror. Because using a medium like smoke, scrying mirror is always going to be an easier way to see them than them just fucking coming down and showing you. Because once again, that very, very rarely happens, folks. But a scrying mirror is much easier than smoke. It's much easier than showing themselves in full body apparitions. If you can learn to do the scrying gaze and get into certain hypnagogic states of mind, trans hypnagogic states, you can tap into that scrying mirror and it pretty much become like an oil slick. It almost looks like a hole in your atmosphere. You're staring into the triangle and it doesn't look like a mirror after a while. It literally looks like you are looking through a black portal gate, and it'll become one eventually. And things will start moving inside of it. Faces will come up. And some people could say that's your imagination. No. Because what will happen at more advanced stages is you'll see things at first. They'll blink at you. They'll smile. Faces will change. You'll see anthropomorphic beings. Eventually, as you can get deeper and deeper into your power and practice, all of a sudden, they'll tether the string from your mind to theirs. And you will either talk out of your mouth their words. More often for me, it is they talk solely in mind. I'm sitting there and I'm asking questions in my mind and I'm hearing a separate voice answer me. In fact, this past week, a couple of days ago, there was a very extraordinary session that I did where I asked several questions and I got very elaborate answers. Now, you have to understand, folks, that these spirits don't talk how you normally would think they would talk. So you're not like, what is the meaning of life? And they're like, the meaning of life is this. No, they talk in riddles, guys. They're like, and they'll say things that you're left staring at the page and you should always jot it down because you won't remember it. The first thing you need to do is jot it down during ritual or jot it down immediately afterwards because you will forget it. Even then, you have to look at it over and over again and you probably still won't know what the hell they're talking about because they talk literally in riddles. And I mentioned Poke Runyon earlier. There's actually a great documentary years ago where he shows his temple. He shows them doing full goetic rites, conjuring, using the scrying mirror, and then he shows one of them tapped into the mirror and starts talking as the spirit. And I'm trying to remember what spirit it was. I think it was oh shit, I thought I had the tip of my tongue and it left. But he sprouts off all kinds of prophetic things that came to happen. But at the time, they had no idea what the fuck the spirit was talking about. And then as it happened, they're looking back at their notes years later, and they're like, holy shit, all this things he said came to pass, but they had no idea what he was talking about. So, long-winded, what I'm telling you is there is a reason for all these things. You don't have to use barbarous words and thwarting angels and burning sigils and boxes, but a triangle does have its purpose. It's not rude. It's giving it a ground to stand on. The circle is a very important instrument. The reason being, that is your vehicle of operation, your sphere of sensation, and your bubble of protection. Those three things. So often in this new age fucking nonsense, people are always like, I don't need protection. Or, circles are for pussies and all this stuff. But you're only talking about one of three aspects. The vehicle of operation means it is becoming your spaceship. And as you work deep enough, that circle and that defined space ends up being your little vehicle to transcend other worlds and levels of consciousness. That is the most important method, I think. And people skip that. Your sphere of sensation is a lot of times when you're tapped in, you start to actually feel the circle as if it's a part of the extended body. So as a spirit kind of creeps around behind you, I will actually feel as if someone's rubbing the back of my neck, but it's not my neck. It's hard to explain. I can feel 4 feet behind me as it touches the periphery of the circle. And I know, holy shit, there's something behind me. And a lot of times you don't want to look. So automatic look at it. No, don't look at it.
Don't look at it.
Keep looking forward and it'll start to communicate with you. It doesn't want to be seen. If it wanted to be seen, it would have showed up in front of you. But the last one, and the one that's often knocked the most, is the bubble of protection. Well, I don't need protection. Well, here's the thing. Once again, and last time I'll speak of this point, you're bringing a lightning bolt in. And if you're not giving it a defined space, if you're giving it a triangle, at least you're somewhat safe because it comes down into a specific spot. When you don't give it a triangle and it comes down, it shock waves the whole room. It might not physically hurt you right then and there. You might be like, well, I'm fine. You don't realize on a subatomic level what that energy just did to other aspects of your being. Physically, you might be fine for now. Mentally, you might be fine for now, emotionally and spiritually. But things don't work in their world the same as it does in ours. So an hour later, you're like, told you I'm a badass. I didn't need any of that. I'm fucking fine right now. That's fine. But what happens 2 weeks later when you fall incredibly ill? And you're like, I must have caught a bug. No, you caught the fucking resonance of a spirit that you called down and weren't ready for. Once you work with a being enough, once you establish a rapport with them, I'm not going to call it a friendship, a rapport, then you can start to say or eliminate aspects of that ritual, because then we get to invocation. And this is where we differ. A lot of people will tell you, you can invoke anytime you want. Evocation's the harder one. And I would tell you it's the opposite. You could try to call them into your temple and feel the atmospheric shift. You can get downloads. You can have experiences. You can try to bring them into the mirror. You can try to bring them in all these other things. But it should all be done at first as a neophyte with a circle, with a triangle, and with these protections of sorts. Doesn't have to be the angels once again, but protections of sorts. You need to have a process. You need to banish away energies before you start. You need to open the doorways. You need to banish at the end. You need to close the doorways. That's how it's properly done. That's why it's always been done that way. So that is kind of the method. And as time goes on, why I say invocation would come later, because invocation is letting them in. Saying there is no triangle, there is no circle, there is no protection. I am going to sit and close my eyes. Come to me. And they will. And that can take many different shapes and forms. That can be in your meditations, witnessing and seeing wild visuals, having large downloads come down to your mind, where all of a sudden you know things that you didn't know 10 minutes ago, or your life just drastically starts changing very rapidly afterwards because you let them in. Let's not mistake that for possession, which we will talk about soon. But remember, invocation is to let them into your sphere, into you, into your mind, into your emotions on a minute level. Doesn't mean they're just going to start operating as you and using you as a sleeve. No, that is not the case. And people out there like, you're going to be careful with invocation because they're going to automatically possess you. No, because unless you are opening yourself and letting them, it is very rare spirit just takes you. It can happen in certain practices, but you're often building yourself up to receive them in that manner. The whole fucking Hollywood horror movie, like he walked into a graveyard, he shouldn't have been there, and he was possessed. It can't happen, because one of my stories of my first experience was a kid getting possessed. But once again, this was during a satanic ritual. So it wasn't like it just. So, I'm going to stop there. I want to let Natasha talk a little bit. I'm going to go through some of these comments, and then we're going to start talking about a few more aspects of invocation and evocation, answer any questions you guys have. And then we're going to talk about possession, because it's so misunderstood.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with everything that you said. One of the things I was thinking about while you were talking was just the physicality that can happen with a lot of these spirits. And that's something that my dog always wants to talk when I'm talking. She's really rude. That's something that I've experienced a lot over the last year, more so than anything before. And I think that the thing about that is that it's another reason for the circle, first of all, because I've had moments where a spirit would have been able to physically touch, but because of that circle, they were going around the peripheral. This was with a group, actually. They were going around, and you could feel it. You could feel them going around, but they weren't actually coming in. But that physicality level can happen during both evocation and invocation. So, people worry about, like you were saying, the possession randomly happening just with invocation, or like saying that that's an open door for that. And I think that it's that level of, even if you can't see it and they are there, there's a very good chance that they can get to you. So having that protection of the circle is a good idea. Having that as a sphere of sensations that you can sense them there is a good idea. And not just, as I look around like my temple space, not just opening your whole temple to, a house party, at least not right away. Like being able to have those judgments, being able to start to gauge yourself. And it's really important to keep those journals, to keep those grimoires, to keep notations of what is happening, because you have to gauge yourself as the time goes on in order to help see how your sensitivities are growing or what's happening when, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And I want to say something that's going to sound kind of weird to folks, but it's kind of a conundrum where it's dangerous for you to be inexperienced. But as you become more experienced, it becomes more dangerous. And people are like, wait, wait a second. Now, it is, because as you don't know what you're doing, you can possibly make mistakes that are detrimental to you. So it's good to do things the right way and learn in an adequate way. So that is true. Now, it helps give you more safety, but it also gives you more danger. And the reason why is, as you perfect yourself, as you go through a daily discipline, as you understand the 4 levels of the holistic self, as we talked about at the beginning of the season, as you understand all these other methods that we've gone over, then you become more sensitive to your abilities. And because you become more sensitive, you're seeing more. They are seeing you now more. And there's a greater chance they're going to be coming into your life, and you have to know how to protect yourself. So you have to have that knowledge to really be able to open yourself up for them, because mediums, you might naturally just have mediumistic ability. But if you're a medium, and you're not shaping that, you're not a real medium. You're just someone who has some abilities that you're tapped into. Mm-hmm. But if you shape them, then you can use that as an instrument for your practice. But once again, without the knowledge of protection and clearing and cleansing, now you are very able to see things much clearer, but now they are able to see you much clearer. So even though you have more skill, you also have more danger. So you have to be very careful of that aspect. I am someone that'll tell you, and I don't care how edgy you think you are, it isn't cool to be a fucking beginner in this and let spirits possess you, or to do high levels of invocation and do all kinds of things that you can brag about on the internet to people that don't matter. Because let's face it, 90% of the people you talk to in these fucking Facebook groups don't matter. Are you going to hang out with them on the weekend? Are they your real buddies? Do you guys get together and go out to eat and have drinks? Or are they just some asshole you talk to on chat and on posts? Who fucking cares if they think you're cool? Because at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about you. And you shouldn't then. And that needs to be said because like there's this
It
brag.
could be your life,
Yeah,
first of all.
it could be your life. So you're like, you got this asshole bragging to you about all the cool stuff he's done, and he tells you this thing, and you're like, well, I'm gonna do that this weekend. Meanwhile, this dude never, excuse me, this dude never actually did it. So then you're gonna go do it this weekend, and next thing you happen, your whole life's fucked. And then that dude's like, well, that didn't happen for me. Well, no shit, because you didn't actually do it, Joe. You know what I mean? So like you're just telling people that. Like, and that's what a lot of this is, guys. Like they're really, you have to understand that the internet, the Facebook groups is a Comic-Con. Like most of the people is a Comic-Con. Like I can't stress that enough. I beat a dead horse with this, and people are like, why is this dude always so fucking hateful to everybody? Because I know it. Because I've talked to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people over time. I've helped train people. I have guests on my other shows. I discuss with famous practitioners and not so famous practitioners. And over time, I have been able to really accumulate a knowledge of who's kind of bullshitting and who's not. And there's a lot of bullshitters.
And that's not even about being hateful. It's literally if we are doing something here to try to help, to try to teach, to try to share with you guys, like we want you safe. We want you to be make good choices. You know what I'm saying? Like,
because if this is done right, guys, this will change.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. And we need to understand as left-handed path magicians, and I really don't like that term much anymore, but as left-hand path magicians, you know, someone who follows the route less chosen, you are the lone wolf. Right away, you needing acceptance from other people online is sketchy, because why do you need acceptance from anybody? You're supposed to be a wolf. Wolves don't give a fuck if everybody else likes them. That's kind of the whole point of being a left-hand path magician. You are a individual. But what was my point? Was going to be that I just fucking completely lost it. Oh shit! It was there and then it left me.
Don't need the judgment.
Huh?
You don't need no judgment, no impressing people. That's the.
Oh no, I know. Correct.
Follow this.
If you're following it and you're doing it properly and you're doing it sincerely, you know, a lot of people say, "Oh, you're working with adversarial, sources and entities, and they could be damaging." And yes, they could. But the thing is if you go about it right, you go about it respectfully, and respectfully isn't just being nice to them. Respectfully is you eating better. It's you sleeping better. Mm-hmm. It's you living better, reading, researching, studying. It is pushing yourself to be a perfected being. And by perfecting yourself, you are honoring yourself and you're honoring the spirit you're calling. Because that if you're a spirit and you're going to be summoned and you're pulled into this world and you're coming, would you want to fucking be pulled into another world and show up in front of a room full of dumbasses? Or would you want to show up in front of someone that's a badass? I mean, if you're going to fucking pull me from the ethers into your fucking temple, I don't want to show up and you be a complete fucking moron. Like, I want you to show up, like, be someone who I respect as a spirit, so to speak. And that's what really needs to be understood, is that the harder you work on yourself, the harder you study, the harder you apply the actual principles and hard steps to doing ritual magic, the more potent your work's going to be, the higher interaction you're going to have with that spirit, and the more life-changing it is going to be in the end, and the results that you will reap from said work. And that does not happen a lot, because a lot of these fucking LARPers don't do the work. And if they do, it's funny when they're offering all this advice and they're so incredibly knowledgeable about demons, right? And all this other shit, but they're sickly looking. They're obese. They're fucking live at home with their mom. They don't have anything going. Like, if you are doing this work sincerely, why is your life shit, bro? I have to ask you, because they have only ever helped me in all kinds of pursuits to better myself. Because as you better yourself, they help be the wind behind your sails to push it quicker. They're not doing all the work for you. You have to initiate it, but they will help you with it. So if your life is shit, that means two things. That means you're not doing the work, therefore they're not pushing. So you're getting neither. And that needs to be understood. It's a very important thing that most people do not understand. Kayleen says the edgelords, and there are a lot of them, and it's unfortunate. Like I said, you have to kind of find somewhere between old and new. There's a reason that a lot of these old grimoires have steps, but you don't have to follow them to a T. They do have reasons, though. There is reasons they use barbarous names, but you don't have to. But there also is a reason that you don't just throw everything to the fucking wayside and say, well, these demons are my lovers and they're my best friends and I'm calling them in and they'll never harm me because I have such a love for them. You let me know how the fuck that works for you. Right? You let me know. Give me a call. Because it doesn't. So
No, I can firsthand, it does not work that way. And you might think that you have a great relationship with a spirit, or not relationship, partnership, working contract, whatever. And then there can still be that night, that ritual that will still mess you up from it. So you just have to be aware of what you're doing, like we say with everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I want you to look at it like your partner, okay? Let's look at it like that. I don't normally wouldn't say that because a lot of people will be like, they're my partner or they're my lover, and I hate that. Like Brittany just said, can't stand that shit on her comment that I threw up there. But I want to look at it like that for a second, okay? You can be with a partner for years and it'd be great, but one night they just get blitzed out fucking drunk, right? And turn into someone different, right? That can happen with your spirits because your spirits are equal parts them and you. And that has to be understood. And that is a common misunderstanding of spirits. Spirits are real, folks. It's not just an internal part of yourself. I know Crawley and some other folks said that it's just the internal psychology of yourself coming to life and all that. No, they are very real. They are external, but they're also internal. It is equal parts. But we have to understand that they are a current. They are an energy that exists in multiple planes of consciousness. And we are pulling them through our will and through our words and through our energy. And then we're throwing a spark on that gasoline and it combusts. But that spark that gets thrown is consistent of your current emotional state, your understanding of the spiritual world, your level of protection and strength. And it's made up of so many different components that when that spark hits that combustible current and explodes to create the spiritual interaction, that's creating what kind of a reaction you have. Not only in potency of how strong, but what kind of cadence that spirit comes with. So as Natasha just said, you can work with a spirit again and again and again, but you be in some different type of place in your life when you call it again, different mental state, and that spirit come through and be a very different spirit. Even though it's the same current, same spirit, so to speak, it becomes very different. We had an interaction with a spirit that we worked with for years, and when we called through, it became very, very violent. Very, very violent. Shit that you would see out of a movie. And this happened to something that we worked with for years, very closely, had a very tight relationship with.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean that spirit's evil? No. Does it mean that it hated us and wanted to destroy us? Not necessarily. But does it mean that for whatever reason, wherever the celestial bodies were that night in the sky, whatever was taking place in the world, whatever was taking place within ourselves, caused a very different interaction with that spirit? Yes. And for anybody that thinks that they are immune to that, good luck to you, because years and years of work can change in one night. And it has. So that needs to be understood, that there's no guarantees in this work. It is the unknown. You're journeying into the unknown. And one other thing I want to throw out before we get into the topic of possession is we need to understand the difference between the same spirit and different types of systems and different people calling the same spirit. As I just alluded to, if 5 of us call the same spirit the same night with the same style of working, but all 5 of us have different researched backgrounds of said spirit, different things going in our lives, different ways of belief, and we call that spirit, if all 5 were to be successful, which would be rare, all 5 will have very individual experiences. There will usually be a common thread amongst them, yes, but you will see it differently. That's why you have some say, well, he came to me as a beautiful young man. And someone else say, he came to me as a horrifying, grotesque monster. Someone else say, it came to me as a woman. Well, how is that possible that it was successful? Could it have been another spirit mimicking? Yes. Or could it be that those beliefs, those understandings, and those different aspects of yourself
Yeah.
Still pulled in the spirit, but pulled in a unique version of the spirit to you. Yes, that is the case. And the last point I want you to jump back in, Tosh, is that we have to understand that, like, Belial, well, I don't want to use Belial. We have to understand that, let me see. We have to understand that, who do I want to use? We'll say, trying to use the best example. Let's just use Asmodeus. If the Asmodeus in the Lemegetans Goetia is not the Asmodeus in the Sitra Akra Klipoth.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Yeah.
So that needs to be understood, because people make that common understanding. Like, they think that the different sides or different books and different workings are all the same exact spirit. Not necessarily. The grimoires were created and made in a way, and I'm talking about like the Solomonic grimoires, to constrain that spirit. And they gave it an iconography. This is what it shall look like, and this is how it shall sound, and this is what it shall do. And they create an outline for you that when you call it, that is your understanding of it. So you get things within that wheelhouse, though they may differ, it still has a huge influence on what it is to you. And you were getting an egregoric frosting on top of a part of that current.
Right.
But the Sitra Akrian spirits of the Klipoth, and there is a difference between the Sitra Akra and the Klipoth, but we're not going to get into that. The Sitra Akrian spirits are very alien. They're very alienistic, separate beings. They're not the Goetian spirits. And there will be people that will argue with us and say that's not right, or I don't believe what you're saying, or I don't agree. I don't give a shit.
I was just gonna say I don't care. After this year, I don't care.
They are very alien intelligence, folks. Like, they are, if they were to be the same spirits, they are the wellspring of these spirits. And by the time they've reached these Christian adepts who wrote these Solomonic grimoires, they became a very watered down, lesser version. That is not to say they are not powerful, that they can't kill you, that they can't fuck your life up, or they can't better your life. They can, but they are a very watered down version, if they are to be the same, from what you're experiencing if you're truly doing Kapothic path workings. Now, I would go as far as to say they're just not the same.
I would have to agree with they're not the same, just from my personal experience. But yeah. Well, that would be a whole episode. Maybe next season.
And if you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them. I know we're going off a little bit of a tangent tonight, but that's what I wanted.
I was going to say you should pull some. I know you've been posting comments. I didn't know if there was any to actually answer.
I don't think there were. A lot of them were just comments. We got some people saying, hey there. Thorn said, hey. We had some other comments like one-liner, pass through boundaries, some other things, but no questions at the current time. My father was on earlier, and he says the spirit will only come if it chooses to. And usually, yeah, I mean, they're not going to come unless you really do the operation right, unless they have a reason to want to show up too. You can force them. So it's kind of not necessarily true, but mostly it is true. Let's get into the understanding, or the different understanding, of possession. Now, if you live in the Western world, you probably have this certain understanding or feeling of possession. Now, left-hand path practitioners might have a different understanding because they've made themselves accustomed to having a different perspective. But mostly all of us have grown up with Hollywood horror movies and comics and books and all these things talking about demonic possessions and the tools of the devil and evil and all of these things. When we have to understand that possession in other cultures is not only not feared, it is embraced and celebrated as one of the highest goals you could ever reach. But we have to also understand that it is one of the most dangerous things you could ever do. Once again, you should not be calling a spirit in to possess you and giving it full control of your body if you are not adept in your practice. And chances are, if you have to ask the question, am I adept or an adept? You are not. So don't do it. Okay, like that's a rule of thumb. If you don't know you're a master, don't do it. And here's where it gets weird. If you think you're a master, don't do it. So then you say, well, when do I do it? If you're wondering that, don't do it. There'll be a time that you'll just know. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. You have to be very careful because there is rewards to doing possession. And there is different levels of possession.
Yeah.
Possession can give you unbelievable experiences, truly out of this world, spacey, wild experiences, but they can be terrifying. They can fuck you up to where you're never right again. They can give you instant downloads, as I said earlier, but to a different degree. And they often will impart wisdom to those around you, not to you, because you won't remember it. And that is full possession. Now, that is rare. Not rare, because there's a lot of cultures that is common practice. But in the Western world, most practices don't even ask for that or tell you to ever do that. So you're only getting into like diabolism, Satanism, and demonolatry. And a lot of times those folks aren't even fully possessing. So there is what's called aspecting. There is interfacing. There is, what other words do I want to use, Natasha?
I was going to say, are you going to go with channeling? Or we're not going to?
Well, you could use channeling.
Channeling-ish.
I mean, so the difference would be is there is a lighter form of possession where the spirit will take hold through your allowance of them to do so. And you will take a back seat to yourself and you'll still kind of be in there, but something else is acting through your vessel. And you can still hear blips of pieces of things. You still have some understanding. If you push hard enough, you can push them out. You still have some control. And that would be, there's another word that I want to use that I use all the time, and it's just not coming to me right now. That would be the light. What's that?
I'm not sure.
We'll just go with interfacing for now. That's interfacing, and you're taking on that spirit. But there is a level that's beyond that where you're just gone. You vanish, and for whatever period of time, you're no longer there. And when you come back, you don't remember anything. And it can be frightening. And it's funny I mentioned Asmodeus earlier, because years ago, the first experience I ever had with possession was through working with Asmodeus. And I'll share it because I find it to be very interesting. It was at my old house. I was having very in-depth experiences at this time all around, but especially with Asmodeus. And I kept a magic ritual circle. I kept the triangle of the art. And I was following these steps, and I would call him down, and I was seeing things and experiencing pixelations and wild graphics that were happening in front of me. And then one night, I welcomed him into my circle. I pulled apart the triangle, and I says, step inside the circle with me. I give you allowance to use me as you see fit for the experience. I want to experience. And I don't remember anything else for the next few hours. I woke up in the middle of my chamber, laying in the middle of my circle, and I had no idea what the fuck happened to me. I was like, I remember starting to like not feel right, and I remember starting to almost, I can't explain it, to feel like there was a second thought there, a second mind, and then I was gone. I felt it push me backwards inside of myself until I fell out of myself. And it took over. Now, this Hollywood thing that like once it possesses you, you're trapped forever and you'll never come back. That would be so incredibly rare. Most of the time, it's short-lived. It's a duration of time, but it can be dangerous. You should never attempt it unless you're very skilled. I was full at this time. That was years ago. Since then, I've been possessed multiple times and have handled it much better, but it's still very hard. And the reason why is I've met a lot of practitioners that talk about being possessed and inviting spirits in all the time. And I call bullshit on a lot of them again, because I will tell you right now, folks, and this is going to help fuel your bullshit meter. You can start bullshitting all kinds of people because you'll know more truths now. So you can take my truths and make them into your lies. You're going to be sore as fuck. Like you're going to hurt. Like the next day you're gonna wake up, every muscle in your body is gonna hurt. You're gonna feel like someone beat the living shit out of you. And you're gonna be like, oh my God, what happened? Like, what the fuck did you guys do to me last night? And everybody's gonna be like, we didn't do anything to you, bro. Some wild shit happened last night. You were talking in all kinds of different ways and you were just nuts. And you'll start to kind of accept that and absorb that. But it's not comfortable. Even as you get more used to it, it'll become more comfortable, but never comfortable. So folks that are like, oh yeah, I take on demons all the time. Once you see this shit on these Facebook groups, oh yeah, self-possession, that's nothing. I do it all the time. No, you fucking don't. You know, because
no, it wipes you out.
It wipes you the fuck out. Like you are sore for days, and sometimes not right again for a while. Like even as a strong adept, your mind's like, okay, I need to take a few weeks to recuperate of what just happened to me because I'm a little fucked up right now. And that's even being connected with the spirit and having a relationship. It is taxing on the human vessel because we are bodies. We are material objects made of organs and blood and vessels. And these are very powerful energies, lightning bolts coming down and housing themselves inside of that. And it's just really not good for the human system. So that's a secret for you in case you didn't know. But there are different levels of possession and you can control it. Normally at the beginning, you can let a spirit in and still have some control. It just depends. When I let Asmodeus in, I did not. He just straight took me. And I don't remember anything for a couple hours. So it's to this day, it's like blackout drunk, right? You ever had those nights you drink so much, you wake up the next morning, you're like, what in the fuck happened? That was one of those nights, except I wasn't drinking. So it can get very, very iffy, very quick if you don't know what you're doing. Please take it.
Oh, I was going to say that's another reason to, eat right, sleep right, drink your water, do all the things, try to be in good shape if you plan on letting these entities into your physical vessel. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, as having to see and experience some of that, I think that, again, like you said with Hollywood, it is either it's made to look really cool if it's on the Facebook post, or in Hollywood it's made to look horrifying. I personally would say that a lot of the Hollywood stuff, I always laugh because they choose demonic names for the evil character or whatever that takes over the lead or the nun or whoever. And I would say that 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, if somebody is getting possessed in that type of way, like an Exorcist movie type of way, it's not one of your main goetic demons. It's not something that is titled that is taking it over. It's a more of a parasitic entity, like we've talked about. And I think that's kind of an important point to have on that. And you might even, and just you might think you're working with Lilith, and you're not working with Lilith, you're working with some sort of parasitic entity, and then you're like, oh well, she took me over in my sleep, which we should talk about sleep takeovers. But and no, it wasn't Lilith, it was just this parasitic entity that answered when you called because it was there.
Yeah, because
your energy's off. Yeah,
chances are if it shows up very quickly, it's probably not what you're calling.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another thing you see so much online is people be like, I never found it, because you'll have people saying how hard it is to conjure, like we did tonight, and they're like, never was really that hard for me. I'll repeat the end 7 times and they're there. And I'm like, either you're completely delusional inside your own head, which is probably the case, or you are pulling down a parasitic entity or a spirit of the dead. You just have a ghost somewhere, a phantom that was nearby, and it's like, oh shit, I'll fuck with this guy for a little bit because he's going to give me food and wine, and maybe he'll give me blood, which for a lot of people, they're so quick to just offer their blood, and there's nothing wrong with that in the right sense. But you have people that are on week 2, and they're like, I am going to call down XYZ demon, and they're like, click, 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 and then a dripping blood everywhere. And they're like, here's my blood because I seen it in a cold demonolatry book. And they're like, there it is, and take it. And it's like, yeah, you might want to wait till you actually have some fucking knowledge of what you're doing before you give the most important life force that there is, which is your own life force. just a thought, because there is reasons to give it, and there's reasons why blood is used in offerings, whether it be your own, whether it be a sacrifice of some sort. There's reasons for that because of magnetic fluid. There is electric fluid. There's reasons that those combined can make very
We will
powerful.
make that another episode.
That'll be next year's.
Yeah.
There's reasons for those things. So don't just willy-nilly to start fucking giving this shit away, because you need to have a reason for it and understand its principles. That's the biggest thing to understanding the principles. Before you naysay the circle, like I said earlier, maybe understand what the fucking circle is actually used for, and not just go off all these other dweebs online that are like, I don't need circles for protection. Yeah, like I said, that's only one of 3 aspects that it's even used for, bro. You never even knew the other 2. Well, I don't need a triangle because it's brutal and it's mean to put them in a triangle. No, it's how you get efficient fucking workings. So it's like, study.
When he's talking about the people saying, I don't need a circle because I'm cool enough with that one, he's talking about me and Brittany, just so everybody knows.
Yeah, right.
That's what we would do. We've since learned, but
practices don't use it, so we have to make sure that we delineate.
Yeah.
It depends on your practice, but if you were doing ceremonial magic, if you were working with the Western understanding of spirits, demons, and old pagan gods that have been demonified, and you're working with them in the aspect that they are now demons. So, okay, let's do. Who do I want to pick? Let's do Amon. Not Paimon, but Amon. And treat it as a demon. Well, it might have been Amon-Ra, the Egyptian god, but now it's, Amon, the demon. So you are working with a fragment of that current, but you are working with a tainted egregoric fragment of that current. So if you're going to work with it, you should probably work it with it in some type of structure that it's accustomed to being worked with, because its very thought form was created within that structure. So use that structure. It's okay to break the mold from time to time, but like I said, there is reasons why we're working that. Now, there's other forms of magic. For example, Natasha and I are initiated Kimbandero and Kimbandera. We work the Afro-Brazilian Kimbanda. They don't use circles. They don't use triangles of manifestation. There is possession. There is deep rituals. There is communication. It is a very different system, but you're also working with a very different class of spirits. You must figure out what kind of class you're working with and how are these spirits worked with. They are African Brazilian spirits. Therefore, you work with them in the understanding of how the Afro-Brazilians worked with the spirits. That's what you do. When you're working with a system of spirits who were kind of created, but not created through the means of Christian ceremonial magic, you might be able to get rid of some of the Christian elements of it, but you still kind of work with them in a fucking ceremonial ritual magic sense, if that makes sense to you guys.
And I was actually going to say about that is when we talk about like how it takes time to call the spirits and you can't just call them on 7 ends and expect them to show up and stuff. In this practice, now with the initiation and stuff, it is, again, these are different form of spirits. It's a different class of spirits. They act very differently. It is, in fact, okay, you light the candle and you're like ready to go, and they're there, they're ready to go too. So it's a totally different, I will say, relationship in this sense that you have versus working with Amon or Asmodeus or, Belial or anything like that.
And it's also like, it's a different class of spirits. It's a different understanding and relationship with the spirits, and it still takes work, though. It still takes,
absolutely,
because the thing about that is it's easy just to say that in that system the spirits are so much closer to you, and you're working. But the thing is, you're working much closer to them because working with them multiple times a week, every week for the rest of your life. So over time, you build up a very strong rapport. Now, in the same sense, if you were to use Belial for an example, and you call Belial down in an elaborate ritual 2-3 times a week, every week for the next 6 years, I'm pretty sure 6 years from now, you are going to have a pretty fucking strong resonance with this spirit and be able to do some profound things with this spirit. But it takes a lot of harboring that spirit and working with them and feeding them. Feeding them is very much a part of it, folks. It is a very much an exchange. Spirits require sustenance and energy to exist and thrive in our world. You have to keep giving and giving. And it's not because they're bad. Just like you eat, don't you? You want to fucking survive the next week, so you eat. You do shit to keep yourself going. The spirits are here. They need shit to keep themselves going. So you have to keep feeding and honoring and working and talking and praying and singing and do all of that. But there's just so much misconception that people don't form relationships. They Pokemon, got to catch them all. I called 48 demons, as we talked about. You never formed an established relationship with any of them. You cut out all the safeguards to fucking make sure that you're not going to go psycho. And let's face it, a lot of fucking people do this wrongly, do it for a few years, and they have absolute psychotic breakdowns and they go nutty and they're never right again the rest of their lives. They get so whacked the fuck out you can't even talk to them in a normal conversation. And the problem is they think they're the Messiah. They're like, oh no, I truly have the in on these demons and I'm really connected to them. And you're like, no, bro, you're absolutely insane. In some cases, it could be that you're so in tune that you just seem insane. But no, most of these folks are fucking insane. And that's what they do to you because you didn't respect them enough to respect yourself. So they just have fun destroying you.
Yeah. And like you said, I think it's really, really important, no matter who you're calling, no matter who you're trying to work with, whether you are invoking, whether you are evoking, whether you are looking for a full-on possession, know the spirit that you are working with. Like, do the research, know the culture, know the spirit, know the energy that you are going to be working with. Because once you work with them, whether you do it one time or 100 times or 1,000,000 times, when you bring that current into your life in any way, that current will always be there. So just keep that in mind, whether you realize it or not.
I want to find, and I don't know if I can because Facebook just updated its app and I can't fucking find anything now. Like it's all the buttons are in a different place. I wanted to read something off earlier. That was the last point I kind of wanted to make, and we can answer any questions that folks have. That it's my understanding of these spirits, and like I said, some folks might not agree. Let me see if I can find it.
I was gonna say, you guys are being real quiet tonight, so
Yeah, they are being quiet. There's a lot of people watching, but no one really talking.
Yeah, speak up, people. Speak up. I think we were talking about like having different how people can call the same spirit and have different experiences. I think that was one of the really cool things with the shop and having the group rituals and stuff. I would love getting the messages afterwards from people saying like, I had this experience. Hecate came to me as this. Lilith came to me as this. I experienced Beelzebub as this. Like, and seeing, because like you were saying, there's that line of similarity between the experiences, even as they're different. And I would love just being able to see that line, that thread of similarity between all of them, while they were all having different experiences. It was so cool to me just to be able to see that.
I think so. I think it's cool to know that there's those common elements that you're like, okay, I had such a different experience than you, but then you start talking, you're like, wait a second, that happened for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it happens a lot, folks. I mean, you will find those similarities. I found the post, but it won't let me get the text of the post. I'm trying to find it. It's on the Coterie page. It's on my personal Facebook. Damn it. There we go.
Well, I don't know what post you're looking for, but I do see people leaving comments, so I'll read them while you're looking for that.
I'll throw them up while you're doing that. Let me throw this one up first. You can go read them off.
Yeah, Kayleen said, I feel like the unknowledgeable people can cause themselves major psychosis. I 100% agree. Britt said, sure have. Because I think people being quiet. Sarah said, long week. Yeah, I get it, Sarah. Casey said, this is very interesting. I'm just taking it in. Trevor is driving. Congratulations, by the way, Trevor. Keep going with that sobriety. It's awesome. Dylan said, I see that level of psychosis on social media. Yeah, no, so do I. And I have talked about it multiple times and on here too, because it just, I don't want to say it irritates me, because it's not that it irritates me, but as somebody that works with other people that come to me, it's really difficult to have that be what they're getting their information from. And I was talking to a friend about this morning, just the amount of people that, they'll go so hard for like a year or 2 years or whatever, and then suddenly there's a big thing from them about how they went back to Christianity and they have revoked witchcraft and all of this stuff. And I think that you see that a lot too in this realm of psychosis. It's just a different form of psychosis, but we won't
Yes.
get into that.
I did find the post, so when we're done with these, I will jump into it real quick.
Good. Wait, now I can't. I'm listening, taking it in. Awesome. Sarah, everyone complained about Gemini season. Ha, this Cancer season can suck it. Sarah, this is my season. This is a season of brilliance and delight and emotional depths of despair. Brittany said a bunch of idiots, and Trevor said thanks. You're welcome, bud.
So thank you, guys. I wanted to jump into one last thing for me, and then, like I said, if there's any other questions or things, we'll answer them, and then we'll finish out for the night. Another reason for the safeguards, I'll explain in this post of mine that I've used for years, and it's on the Coterie page. It says, once you summon spirits, they are with you forever and have now changed your timeline to have been with you since the beginning. This is how you have two effects from these types of workings. Your mindset and being seems to change oftentimes right away. Why? Because now another timeline has merged with yours, replacing it. So you have now had them with you since day one. And you are now no longer who you were just before the ritual began. The meaning of selling your soul isn't something you give away. Its true meaning would be that now you have sold the freedom of being without that spirit, because now they are attached to your being until your end, integrated with your existence. You opened up the internal doorways as well as external that lead directly to you, if that makes sense. And that's why things start changing going forward as well, because they are continuously with you to help those changes. But a piece of our mind doesn't accept and change with that construct because how we have been programmed to understand reality and time. So we feel like everything is just happening going forward, and that our ritual was a success towards future events, not past. We miss the hindsight. When using barbarous names, angelic cosmic counterparts, specific restraints and circles of protection, as well as the triangle of the art, if one does, it not only makes a very specific type of powerful result, but it helps keep you safe from them merging and connecting in this manner, stopping the time warp that I previously have mentioned. So you get a one-time result from them, but they are not partners. They are working for you. You have not signed the pact. Most are fine with this type of transaction as it is still powerful, and one needs to choose their own practice. There is no right or wrong. There just is. This safer method is said to be how Solomon worked with them, though I think there is much more to his story than we are told. In the Testament of Solomon, when he let down his guard with Asmodee and gave him the ring of power to see what he could do when not restrained, they actually merged. His timeline changed, and so began the seeds of power growing within him, later fruiting into his love and worship of Molech and Ashtoreth in the later days, including the temples that he built to them. These are my thoughts and analysis only. Take what resonates and discard the rest. Also, please keep in mind that the magic circles and triangles have many other purposes besides just restraint and protection. They give you a sacred space and vehicle of operation, enhancing your sphere of sensation. And the triangle gives you a liminal plane for the spirits to manifest visually, and the scrying mirror, a focal point to define space. Now get out there and start learning and conjuring, because someone and something far beyond who you are now is watching. Now, the reason I wanted to read that post of mine to you guys is that you understand that we often think that the Solomonic method and the Goetic method is so horrible to these spirits, and we're constraining them, and we're rude to them, and we're like making them slaves. And in a way, yes, it is. But I am the only person I've ever seen talk about that time loop, that by putting them in the triangle, by keeping yourself in the circle, but more importantly, using the constraints of barbarous god names and thwarting angels to control them, they are never able to get to you. So they simply become an employee, so to speak. They go out and do the job, they finish it, you're done. You have no connection. You are just causing something to go out and do something for you. And a lot of people that is fine with, and that's all they want. But when you remove the angelic counterparts, when you remove the barbarous names, when you remove other aspects, especially when you do invocation rather than evocation, you are letting them now around your sphere. And we are not just flesh, folks. We have an auric field around us. We are energy inside a human body, or what we perceive to be a human body. So as their energy's in the room, your energy's outside your body. No matter if you see it or realize it or not, those energy wavelengths start crisscrossing and mingling and forming new wavelengths. And the thing that happens is you are no longer just you. You are both of you. And as I said, it is not just going forward. A lot of times you do magic, and within 3 days, all this shit starts happening. And as I said, you believe, oh my God, this operation worked so flawlessly. Well, yes, it did, but it didn't just work because the future's different. It worked because you replaced the you that you were with a you in a timeline that all of those things were bound to happen. And I know that's deep and hard to take in. As you do deeper workings, you'll start to understand what I'm talking about. You are a train on a track. There's multiple other trains next to you living similar lives, but with deviations. What you are doing with magic is you are reality splicing. You're cutting the fabric of reality. You're sticking in a cheat code and sewing it back onto the tapestry, and then it absorbs into the background and changes the background you're in. Your train is going down the track. You're hitting that switch you see in cartoons, and then the train moves to a new track. That track that you were just on, the future part of that track will never be lived now. It's gone. You abolished it. Boom. But the one next to you, you just jumped over to. And in that line, whether it's 2 over, 50 over, or 3,000 over, parallel universes, you jump to the one where what you wanted was already destined for you. So it's not that you brought it into fruition, which you kind of did. You brought yourself into the world where that was going to happen. Food for thought. And once you do that, once you merge with them and you don't use those constraints, they will never leave you and are with you forever. And they are a part of your being, and you can never get rid of them. That is selling your soul. Not I'm signing in a contract and take it. No, that now I have agreed to have you with me since the beginning of all times till the end of all times. You are mine, I am yours. That is the true selling your soul. And to some, that is terrifying. And to others, it is beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. I can't even add on to that because that summarizes it. So if you didn't get it the first time, because you might have to take that in a couple times, go back and listen again. And then again.
And as you start to realize some of these things, you'll say, oh shit, dude's on one. It's just really, guys, it's not to toot horns. It is really just the fact of really deep workings. I can't express to you enough. It's not to showboat. It's not to act cocky, because I've gotten that before. And I've said this on the show. Some people will be like, that dude's a fucking prick. He's so cocky. But the thing is, I'm not. You know, I'm actually very humble. I joke around, and I guess sometimes my joking around and fucking with people, it like puts them off. I'm actually very humbled in the fact that I'm merely a student. And like I said, I am always learning. We both are. But I will tell you that when it comes down to working, we are two of the hardest working people I've ever met. We are constantly in ritual. We are constantly studying. We read 100 some books each a year. And we're not just armchair magicians or white tower magicians. We are truly putting in the work. I mean, we put in dozens of hours a week in ritual, and these experiences are what allow us to give a different perspective of magic. You hear things on the show you're not hearing other people talk about because we are experiencing our understanding of it. It's not to say that's the only one or it's the right one. It's just what we have discovered. But we also bash a lot of the shit that we're saying that we know is lying because it's an insult to people like us. Whenever I could be laying on my couch watching TV, I could be just doing fucking nothing and be a lazy bum. But instead, I'm up at 5 a.m. working my ass off. Instead, I'm sitting at ritual at 2 o'clock in the morning doing like, no, I take pride in what we do. We work our asses off to get where we're at. And I see people getting clout and buzz and all these fucking posts. And I see that they're lying about everything that they're doing. And it's really sad that so many people eat it up. Do your due diligence to figure out who's actually doing the work and who's not. And it's like last episode, not last week, 2 weeks ago, that episode, as much as there are charlatans and con men, there are predators and sharks, and you have to be careful of both sides. That last episode, we talk about the people who will abuse you, use you, rape you, and kill you. And there are a lot of them out there, but there's much, much more on the other side of the tracks that'll just lie to you and make you believe that they're the new guru messiah. And they're not, I promise you.
Just do the work. Do your work. Like, we're here to try to encourage you to do your work so that you can have the experiences and they don't have to be our experiences. And honestly, for your sake, I would hope some of them aren't. But
yeah, it's not fun, a lot of it. Brittany said choo choo for the train. We got Stacy saying that is beautiful. Brian said, ha, yes, it is beautiful. I understand. Brittany said, you're good people, Frater. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And then Kayleen said, what are your thoughts on drawing the triangle of art on a scrying mirror rather than the triangle with a mirror in it? You could do that. I don't see that it would give you any additional benefit necessarily. What I like to do personally is I wish I would have grabbed it. I should have had it for this episode. I have a fucking beautiful triangle of manifestation in the other room. I like to stick it upward, so I don't lay it flat. I actually stick it up on a what would you call it? Like a the fucking painters use
an easel.
An easel. Thank you. You stick it up on an easel, right? And you have it in front of you so that its face is facing you. And then I have a little ledge in front of it. And then I stick the mirror up like that. And then I put the sigil on the triangle behind it. So the triangle is facing you. You're seeing the triangle rather than it laying down and you're having the mirror. Because a lot of people lay it down and you have the mirror up off of it. I actually like laying it straight up and down, having the mirror sit in front of it on a stand and have the sigil on the triangle behind it. Or you can take erasable marker or paint markers, not regular paint markers, and draw on the back of the scrying mirror itself the sigil of the spirit. So as you're looking into the mirror, you're literally looking into an object that the sigil is on. You just don't see it because it's on the back side. I would advise you, and I was lucky enough through sad means, but lucky enough last year to come into contact with an actual obsidian black mirror, not a plastic one, not a regular glass one, a true obsidian black scrying mirror. I waited for years to want to find one. Still have never come across one. And then I was gifted one from a friend that had passed. And it's gorgeous and so much more powerful than a regular normal mirror. So there's different ways you could try, Kayleen, to do that. I would say don't obscure your mirror. Don't draw the triangle on it. I would say put the mirror on the triangle, in the triangle, in front of the triangle. And one last thing, guys, and I know we talked about a lot because I'll go in all kinds of tangents. Take pride in your work. What do I mean by that? I see people that have been practicing for fucking 20 years and they're still drawing their sigils on fucking white notebook paper. Like, that's cool. It's okay. That works. A lot of people do it. They drip their blood on it, whatever. No, why don't you go buy some papyrus? It's not that expensive, but it's a beautiful material. Why not make your own custom ink? because now instead of just using a pen and just using white notebook paper, now you're buying a fucking type of material that they used in Egypt and in ancient times that they made sigils on. Now, instead of just using a pen, you're making your own ink, which is imbued with your own ashe or your own energy in that ink. So now you're using a powerful ink on a powerful medium base, which is that papyrus, or use it on stone, or use it on canvas, or use it on something that is going to set it apart. It's going to make it more potent, more beautiful, more artistic. Let's be truthful. Magic is art, folks. It is an art in itself, and it should be art. Just like when you're invoking a spirit, don't do it dryly. I call forth you, Asmodeus, to come to me in my temple. I wish to speak to you, great spirit. Like, what is that? That is boring as fuck. It's not fun. The spirit isn't going to come. You should be, I call to you, great Asmodeus, to show yourself forth in this temple in beholdable form and discernible tongue. Come and show get into it. Have the energy, because the energy is energy and it puts it into what you're doing. Put your energy into your fucking work. Live it. It should be like poetry. That's a secret that people don't tell you. Your rituals should be like fucking like Shakespeare. Whenever you're doing it, it should be performed, but not made up. Performed. You're putting your all into it. You are the character, but not a character because you're making it up. Once again, that needs to be expressed. You're the character. You are the person living it, but you are truly living it in that moment. And you're reading it with emphasis. You're reading it with power. You're reading it with flair, and you're reading it with passion and love. And your tools that you're working are nice. It is okay if you're starting out using a fucking butter knife as your athame. It's okay if you're using notebook paper. It's okay if you're using all these smaller, minuscule, cheap objects, because we all start somewhere. But if 20 years later, you're still using a fucking butter knife and white pieces of paper, I question that. Yes, it might work for you. And you say, why do I need anything else? Because it should mean something to you. Your pride in your magic isn't just because it works. It's because over time, I want to give my spirits the nicest of objects. Their altars are gorgeous. Their statues are extraordinary. Their tolls are unforgettable. And that is because you love your spirit so much and the work that you do with them that you give them the nicest of things beyond even yourself.
Agreed.
Something to think about. It's often misunderstood. I want you to fucking pay attention to how many people are using lined notebook paper, drawing sigils on it. Some of you assholes out there listening right now are. So I'm talking to you. Even as fans of our show. Do better. All right? Do fucking better. Last comments, and we're closing out. You are welcome, Kayleen. If you have any questions, hit me up. Hold on a second here. I've used Dragon's Blood ink. Yeah, so that's a perfect example right there. Dragon's Blood ink on papyrus is a beautiful way of honoring the spirits when you're working. It's an offering in itself. Dragon's Blood's an awesome ink to use. It's fun to make. You can imbue it with a lot of power, and that papyrus is just a great material to work with. Like I said, it's just fun to work with. Stone's fun too. There's ways of getting plates and stones and things that we do in our practice that I love. I think it's the best way to make sigils, to be honest.
I couldn't go back now.
Yeah, I couldn't see myself going back, to be honest with you. Fucking notebook paper. Yeah, I mean, and don't get me wrong, it has its place. It works, but
and
when do you want it beautiful?
Right, you want it to be beautiful. You want it to be an event, an art piece. But that's not to say if you're not sitting at the office and you need to make a sigil right then and there, and all you have is notebook paper, don't be like, well, Crow and Natasha said I can't use fucking notebook paper. Like, use what you have at the time, but also grow.
Well, use what you have, but here's my thinking in it too. Is if you're going to spend like 2 weeks preparing for a spirit, researching the spirit, sleeping with, thinking about it before bed, saying it's 10, you're going to do these things to prepare for this spirit, right? and then like the day of the ritual,
Yeah.
and then you set it and you're drawing a sigil. It's like, seriously, dude, like you for 2 weeks you did so much energy and time into this ritual, and then you ripped a fucking notebook piece of paper
Yeah.
out. Like, what, during those 2 weeks you couldn't have jumped on Amazon and bought fucking papyrus paper and use that or something to make it more flair. I don't quite understand, to be
No, I
honest
know,
with you.
Brittany. I know what you were doing. I'm just saying that.
Hold on a second. Let me get some of these comments here.
If I'm sitting at my desk.
That's from Bell. No, that one actually was not Bell. But I obviously have some items of Christians as well that I'm honored to have and honor him. But no, the mirror was not. What do we got here? I was making fun of 20-year-old practitioners. Well, no, that's the thing, Britt, is it's not 20-year-old practitioners. Well, I guess it depends on how you're saying it. 20 years old as in they're 20, that would make more sense. But there is 20-year-old practitioners, meaning they've been practicing for 20 years. These people are 40, 50, 60 years old. And I'm like, okay, quit using fucking notebook paper, man. Take pride in your shit. Now, like I said, if you were in a pinch, like I have had friends that were homeless before that are practitioners. Well, then that's okay, because you telling them that they need to buy $40, stone plates to write on. They're like, I don't have $40 to my name, let alone $40 to buy a fucking plate to write on. So use what you have. You can even go to methods like Kimbanda, where it is common to use chalk and draw out sigils on the street. You were doing it on the fucking street or on the sidewalk or on the side of a building. That is okay. You can have power on those things. So I'm not saying it always has to be pretty. I'm just saying if you're someone who owns a home, you own a temple, you're going through the effort of building up your temple, wouldn't you want to continue to buy nice things for your temple, for your spirits, for the pride that you have in your work? I don't know. Like I said, but I'm also a Taurus, so people have to understand that.
I was going to be like, you guys have to understand that you're getting this from a Taurus, though. So, I mean, he likes things.
Yeah, so like nice. I like things. So, that's a part of the process. Some people that might not be it. Like I said, there was a gentleman, I can't think of his name right now. He taught a course on Solomonic magic, and he teaches you how to simply do it with butter knives and things like that, because that anybody can do that. And like I said, I appreciate that. I think that's amazing. You need to start there if you don't have those things. But like I said, I do feel that there is a point you have to switch. You have to, because you'll notice it more powerful. You will never get, and I don't give a shit, you will never get the same resonance from a piece of paper sigil as you will a beautifully crafted papyrus or beautifully crafted stone slate piece that you have painted on and spent time painting and making a beautiful, gorgeous sigil. There is a different type of energy coming from it, because once again, everything is you in spirit. So the spirits, it gives more energy because it's a stronger sigil, but you also feel stronger about the sigil because you put money and time and effort and sacrifice into it. So you automatically are putting more energy into that than you are a piece of paper. And then that spirit's now going to resonate more from that sigil than it would a piece of paper that you just ripped out of a book, drew it real quick, slapped it down, because you don't give a shit about that piece of paper, right? It doesn't mean anything to you. If that piece of paper burns or you throw it away tonight, who gives a shit? But you're not throwing that plate away. You're looking at that plate like, this shit's fucking beautiful and I'm keeping this forever. That's the difference. You're very much a part of what happens in your ritual.
Agreed.
Read this real quick. Bell said, okay. What do we got here? Casey said, I just giggled at the notebook paper. The other day at work, we had a very disturbed person come into the bank and I made a protection digit on a Post-it. But see, there's methods where in the fly of things, that, as Natasha said, that is okay. It's a difference, though, if you're fucking spending weeks working on a spirit and then you only give them in the end notebook paper and like a piece of cheese. You know what I mean? Like, here's a piece of cheese and notebook paper. Fucker.
If somebody gave me a piece of cheese, I'd be happy. So you're going to have to come up with something else. A cracker.
I'm not sure exactly what Britt's saying there. I think she was talking about how many years they've been practicing. Okay. Exactly. Take pride, but also, like Natasha said, in a pinch. I giggled about the paper we had to disturb. Okay, there came through again. It didn't come through first and doubled up. I painted them on my door with specially made paint. See, that's powerful as well. And Casey made sure she said sigil, not digit, because I said digit in her original message because it said digit. She painted a sigil. I thought a digit sounded cool too. Just wrote a 4 on a piece of paper and handed it to him. You're protected now, fucker. Here's your 4. You can always fascinate a woman by giving her voice. Give her voice of
Peace.
cheese.
He means peace.
Oh, I'm like, I don't know what a cheese voice sounds like.
I don't know, but I really want cheese now.
In a pinch, using notebook paper. Yes, in a pinch, but not, like I said, not years in. But if anybody wants to ask any more questions, let us know. You can message us. We are going to finish out tonight's episode. We want to thank you for a wonderful season of Cuniculum Obscuritatis. 12 awesome episodes, 12 subjects, deep diving into all kinds of different matters. Next season will be about the grit. We'll be starting to talk about let's get to work. Let's step inside the circle. Now you have the components of theoretical understanding of a lot of these things. Now, how do you actually put them to work? Now, obviously, some of those things we talked about, but now we're going to start presenting it in a way of let's get
and then
to work.
We'll give you the work.
And
then
we'll give you the work so you can have tasks for those that really want to actually work. The goal would be not only to listen to the show for a small group of you, because it won't be everybody listening, that say, you know what, I actually want to do this work, Crow. I want to do this work, Natasha. How, help us. We are going to form a little study body and have practitioners doing work, and you will be held accountable. You will turn in reports. You will share with us your experiences. We will be able to judge whether you're having true experiences or maybe you need to be more discerning, or if you're bullshitting us. We will be able to help you grow in your practice, and that is our purpose. And there's no plans of charge for any of that. We will set boundaries to it because we only have so much time, but we will assist you and aid you in your growth in practice. We have one episode left in 2 weeks. That'll be the final episode of this season. It is a Q&A. So if you have questions on anything, feel free to write them up over the next 2 weeks. Bring your A game 2 weeks from now. Ask whatever you will. We'll give you an hour and a half of conversation, of schizophrenic jumping back and forth, because God knows what we'll talk about. And, that'll be the final episode. But
you guys have been so patient and so good with sticking to the topics like we asked you to for everything that we did each week, and keeping your questions related to that topic. So the next episode will be that chance for anything on the table. It doesn't have to do with the episodes that we've talked about. We will answer as best we can for what we can.
Yeah. We do appreciate that. Yeah. Cause it's like, it's hard to have a show topic and someone asks something different. Like today we're going to talk about meditation. And then someone's like, what happens when I'm working the second ether of the Enochian system with John D? And it's like, how the fuck does that relate to what I'm talking about right now? I don't like stick to the subject, man. No, you guys have done wonderful with that. So thank you so much. We really are honored. We are humbled to be able to present you, these episodes. So thank you. Catch us in 2 weeks. Message us with any questions, and be watching out for Knights of the Nephilim starting on the first Thursday of August. 22 guests. I don't know what I'm thinking, but 22 guests. You will hear everything you've ever wanted to hear. So,
and it's a great lineup. So
it is. So thank you. Well, we will catch you guys next time. Much love from the Coterie.
Great night, guys.